The Mercedes-AMG EQS is a new vision for the future of high performance. It embodies the motorsports heritage of AMG while delivering a rush of all-electric excitement. My name is Nick, and I'm here to meet Brian to see the all-new Mercedes-Benz AMG EQS.
Hey Nick.
Hey Brian.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. That looked like fun.
Yeah, it's an absolute blast. So what do you think of the EQS 580?
It's an amazing car to start with, but I'm really interested to know more about the AMG variant here.
Yeah, the AMG EQS, it's an absolute blast. We've got 749 horsepower from the first production electric AMG ever made.
And tell me about the differences here on the front end.
Yeah, so if you look at the front of the 580, you've already got the AMG line, which is quite sporty, but
Yep.
the front of the AMG EQS, we've got the AMG specific grille, which is an identity that we carry across the entire AMG portfolio.
And as I pulled up, I saw these wheels. These wheels are crazy.
Yeah, these are 22-inch wheels.
Okay.
They're an AMG-specific design. We call it a turbine wheel.
Okay.
And they're not only really cool, really aggressive looking with the center lock look, but they're super aerodynamic, which is what you need in an electric car.
So Brian, tell me about 4MATIC Plus.
So 4MATIC Plus, it's an AMG-specific all-wheel drive system.
Okay.
We've got it on almost all of our cars these days, and it's a system that regulates how much power is delivered to the front and the rear axle. So it functions the same way on the AMG EQS, but since this is an electric car, we can regulate that power even more precisely. So 10,000 times per minute, the car is analyzing how much power should be delivered to the front and rear axle for optimum traction.
And what's that mean to the average car driver?
Yeah, so that means really at any given point, the car is able to adjust basically instantaneously to the torque demands and the grip levels that the car is driving on. So if you're on a slippery surface, the car can adjust in the blink of an eye how quickly and how much power is transferred to the front or the rear axle.
Very cool. And as we go to the back, what's some things to call out here?
Yeah, so at the rear axle, we've got rear axle steering. It's
Okay.
9 degrees, which is a really big number for rear axle steering.
Yep.
That means you can get around parking lots really nice and easy. It makes the turning radius a lot smaller, but also at high speeds or on twisty roads, it makes you feel a little bit more confident. It provides more stability at speed. So we also have this fairly aggressive spoiler from AMG, which they designed to not harm the coefficient of drag while also providing a pretty good amount of downforce at the rear. So you want downforce for traction and handling,
Yep.
but since this is an electric car, it needs to have a great coefficient of drag to get the best range possible.
So Brian, tell me about the color.
Yeah, so we call this Manufacture Cardinal Red. It's a
Okay.
really cool metallic red, but I think we've looked at the outside enough. Let's check out the inside.
I agree. Tell me about the interior of this car.
So like the 580 that you drove today, we've also got the Hyperscreen in here, standard equipment. What's the Hyperscreen? It's this multi-screen under a single glass pane dashboard in this car. It combines a digital gauge cluster, a really large center display where you have your infotainment or your radio or your maps, whatever. And we also have this really cool passenger display where me as a passenger, I could also have my own infotainment experience. So I could look at maps, I could look at the radio, I could do all sorts of things while we're on the move.
And sitting in this car, I mean, this interior feels great. So tell me a little bit about what's around me.
Yeah, so we've got AMG-specific seats with AMG-specific upholsteries. Behind your headrest, actually, you've got an AMG crest built in and some AMG badging. The seats are really supportive, really comfortable, but they'll keep you in the seat if you're on a dynamic road. Also, something that's fun, something that's developed on the track, we've got carbon fiber trim. So it looks really cool. It's also standard equipment. So that's something you don't see every day in an electric car, standard carbon fiber trim.
And what about these little knobs and buttons here?
Yep, so those are the AMG drive unit steering wheel buttons. They're standard equipment in the car. They let you change your drive mode. As you're doing right now, you can switch between Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus. You can also change, for instance, the shock stiffness. Yeah, it's just a really convenient way to change lots of functions without taking your hands off the steering wheel.
So Brian, I'm actually up here and I know there's some great driving roads around here. You ready to go see them?
Let's go.
Awesome, let's go.
So what do you think so far?
I mean, it's really a major difference getting out of the EQS 580 into this. I mean, the performance aspect can definitely be felt immediately as soon as you get in this car.
Yeah, certainly. It's got significantly more power and torque. And the suspension's completely tuned by AMG, so it should have unique handling characteristics as well. So one of the other really cool features that differentiates the AMG EQS from the Type Class models are the AMG sound experience features. So you navigate to the sound experience menu, and there are two different modes. One of them is called authentic,
Okay.
which is what we've just entered. You might hear that there's a completely different noise right now.
Yep.
And you can adjust how loud that noise is. And now if I hit performance mode, it makes a completely different noise. And as you accelerate or even simple things like turning the car off, turning the car on, it does a whole different portfolio of sounds.
Does that sound both in and outside of the car?
Yep, it is. There's both an audible noise outside the car as well as inside. And it's interesting. It's a noise that's meant to sound like an AMG while not trying to sound like an internal combustion engine. Why don't we step on the gas and you'll hear what I'm talking about.
Yeah, here we go.
Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah, it sounds like you're taking off on some type of spaceship.
Oh man, I cannot get used to this.
But tell me about recuperation.
Yeah, so one of the cool things about an electric car, you can charge it while you're driving using kinetic energy that you built up while driving. So while you're coming to a stop at a stop sign or a stoplight, you're actively recharging your battery by effectively using your motor, which powers the car, as a generator, which is then producing electricity instead of expending electricity.
And speaking of energy and range, what's the range that this can get?
277 miles is the EPA range.
So how many motors does this have?
It has two motors. There's one on the front axle and one on the rear axle.
And AMG designed those motors specifically for this car.
So like the exterior of the motor, I believe, is probably identical, but the windings inside the motor and the way that the motor itself is cooled is specific to the AMG.
So as I'm going around these corners, I can feel that the suspension in this car is absolutely phenomenal. Tell me more about it.
Yeah, so this has AMG Ride Control Plus suspension, which is the most sophisticated version of actually an AMG suspension right now. It's got air springs, it's got fully adjustable dampers, and it's really able to stiffen up for twisty roads or be nice and comfortable for highway drives. But all of that is also aided by the AMG specific suspension geometry as well.
So Brian, tell me about the charging for this.
Yeah, so the EQS lineup is able to charge. It's actually the largest charging network in America with Electrify America. The EQS comes with 2 years of charging sessions, 30-minute charging sessions, that are complimentary. So you can pull up to an Electrify America station, and using the Mercedes Me and the Me Charge app, you're able to activate the chargers and get 30 minutes of high-speed charging per session. That's using DC fast charging capabilities, so you can actually charge this from roughly 20% to roughly 80% in about a half an hour, which is quite impressive. The other interesting thing, you could charge this at home with a level 2 charger. And so, for instance, if you leave it plugged in overnight, you could get probably in the ballpark of 150 miles or so of range just at your house.
I know this car has Android Auto and CarPlay. Does it also have to be actually connected to be displayed on the screen here?
Yeah, so the great thing about this infotainment system, you're able to access Apple CarPlay and Android Auto wirelessly. So that means you can get your phone. We have a wireless charger in the center console area, and you can put your phone on the charger, you could pair it with the Apple CarPlay or Android Auto system, and no wires required, have access to the Android Auto or Apple CarPlay environments.
All right, so these roads have been extremely fun, but I'm ready to get back to the track and really put this car to the test.
It sounds great.
The power in this thing is phenomenal. And you can really feel the power as soon as you hit the pedal. And the steering, I mean, it's really responsive.
Easy to toss around.
Very easy to toss around. And Brian, how much torque did you say this had?
Over 750 pound-feet of torque.
Yeah,
really,
you can definitely feel that.
Oh Wait, who's driving?
Yeah, who is driving?
I don't know.